If you still believe that luxury bags are handcrafted in France by some 70-year-old artisan in a studio in Paris that is lit by the sun, then you need to wake up and realize that this fantasy has just been slain in cold blood. Gucci has just allegedly shut down every single one of its factories in China without making a statement or offering any spin. They just closed right after Hermes began its downward spiral toward bankruptcy.
It starts with 30 distinct cuts of leather and can take 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. Put the finishing touches on a Kelly, the most difficult bag to build. Artisans rely on their training and muscle memory to make every bag.
You can continue to expose all of these retailers. Nobody's going to care.
I am about to crash.
Y'all would never catch me in nothing fake. No fake earrings, no fake bracelets, no fake shoes, nothing fake designer. It's gonna be a no.
Whistleblowers allegedly exposed that their precious Birkin bags were being churned out in the same factories that pump out fast fashion. You think that's a coincidence? I think it's panic. I think it's a desperate industry move trying to smother a fire that's already out of control. This isn't about counterfeits anymore. This isn't about dupes. This is about billion-dollar brands lying to our faces, gaslighting their most loyal customers, and stamping made in Italy on bags that were allegedly stitched together in the exact same sweatshop as $40 tote bags from Alibaba.
Birkin bag at Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step. First thing first, Hermes only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Beauty from Italy. And the second is Weinheim from Germany. And the third is Haas from France. One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD. And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin, okay? The thread. And of course, for Hermes Birkin, the thread is also the best top level. It's called Fil al Chinois from France. This is actually the Rolls Royce in thread. For each bag, the cost is 25 USD. And then the hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD. The edge oil. This edge oil is imported from Italy. It's called heat sealed edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining, it used lambskin imported from France. For each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And also inside, there is a zipper from Riri brand. And the zipper for one bag is 10 USD.
We were sold a dream, and now it looks like it was mass produced. What's worse, these brands have been sitting on this secret for years, decades. Probably it took one spark, one viral leak for the whole thing to start collapsing. Hermes was the first to get caught. Their name, their whole empire is now circling the drain. And Gucci, they saw what was coming. They didn't restructure, they didn't optimize supply chains. No, they bailed, they cut, and ran like rats off a sinking yacht.
A lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall in Italy.
Made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
It requires a lot of skill to turn it and get it on the right way.
Il y a des bouchées, des bacs plus 4, 5, 6,
And the scariest part, nobody's talking about what this truly means. If Hermes and Gucci were doing this, who wasn't? This isn't just about the loss of a brand. This is about the collapse of an illusion. The luxury lie is dead, and the cover-up, it's just started.
None of the brands these creators mention, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Chanel, especially Hermes, need to go to China for production. And here's why. Labels like Made in France and Made in Italy comes with strict restrictions. And brands at that level don't risk compromising that. It's just not worth it.
Let's begin with Gucci, since, according to those who are in the know, their silence speaks louder than any news release. Gucci has suddenly withdrawn from every Chinese manufacturer with whom they were collaborating, and they have supposedly shut them all down without providing any advance warning with no transition plan. There is no public pushback, only boom contracts. Terminated doors, closed workers, ghosted employees, and let's be honest here. Brands like Gucci don't make sudden moves without legal teams, risk analysts, and crisis managers weighing every word. Therefore, for them to just disappear overnight from their Chinese manufacturing network, that's not a business strategy as much as it's damage control. Ask yourself why now. The answer is obvious. They saw our trash spiral, they watched the TikToks, they read the headlines, they saw the comment sections full of people yelling, "I want a refund." And they scared because Gucci knows they're not clean either. If Hermes' little French fantasy could collapse that fast, what's keeping the same thing from happening to them? The worst part, they're hoping no one notices. They're trying to pull a silent pivot and pretend it was always part of the plan. They'll probably relaunch some Back to Italian Roots campaign in a few months, full of leather candles and sepia-toned workshops. But don't fall for it. This isn't a comeback. This is a cover-up, and let's not forget Gucci is part of carrying a global luxury giant. So this isn't just about handbags, this has ripple effects across Estée Lauder, Balenciaga, Bottega Veneta, and more. They're all watching, they're all scared, and they're all wondering the same thing: how many receipts are out there waiting to go viral? Let's talk about how these brands pulled off the scam for years, because it's not just deception, it's loophole mastery, and it's totally legal. See, there's this little-known trick in the manufacturing world called the country of origin loophole. It basically lets a brand claim a product is made in Italy or made in France, if any. Significant transformation happens there, and significant doesn't mean what you think. It doesn't mean the whole product has to be built there. It could mean something as stupid as attaching a strap or stitching on a logo. So what actually happens? The bulk of the bag, like the body, the handles, the lining, is allegedly made in China. Then it gets shipped to Italy, where someone adds a button or seals a zipper, and bam, it legally becomes made in Italy. Let that sink in. Your $8,000, that one touch is what justifies the markup. That is what sells the dream. And this isn't just Gucci. The Gucci tote might have been mass-manufactured in a Chinese factory by poor workers you'll never hear about, and then those workers would have been flown into Florence for someone to attach a gold insignia. This is industry-wide. It's an open secret in fashion supply chains. It's why so many luxury companies are fascinated with final assembly sites instead of transparency about all manufacturing steps, because that's where the loophole lives, that's where the magic trick happens. But here's the twist: consumers are finally waking up. TikTok exploded with videos showing Chinese workers building bags that appear just like luxury originals, stitch for stitch, and people started asking, why do they look so good if they're knockoffs? Answer: because maybe they're not. Maybe the only real difference is who stamped the final label. And now that the game's exposed, the brands are in free fall, because once you see the trick behind the curtain, the illusion dies. And guess what? It's dead. Here's where things get even messier. Louis Vuitton is sitting center stage right now because people are starting to ask the one question luxury brands never want to hear: are you part of this too? Nobody's dropped full-on factory footage tied directly to LV yet, but let me tell you, TikTok detectives are working overtime, and what they're finding is sketchy stitching patterns, edge paint finishes, hardware installations, all showing up in videos from Chinese factories. And those patterns, they match Louis Vuitton so closely it's getting hard to pretend it's a coincidence. And let's just use some basic logic. If Hermes was doing it and Gucci just slammed the door shut on all their China connections, what are the actual odds that Louis Vuitton, the biggest luxury brand on the planet, was magically doing everything by the book? Please, that would be like being the only sober one at a Hollywood afterparty, and yet 55 is dead silent. No statement, no denial, no deflection, just eerie corporate quiet. And in this industry, that kind of silence isn't confidence, it's fear, because saying anything means acknowledging the allegations, and acknowledging them means legal fire. Customer revolts, billionaire backlash. So instead they're hiding, but let's be honest, it's not going to work forever, because people aren't dumb anymore. The old PR spin doesn't work. When we've seen the receipts, Louis Vuitton might be the next luxury giant to fall, and they're probably just hoping they can delay the drop long enough to clean house behind the scenes. But the internet doesn't forget, and these days it doesn't forgive either. Here's the part that sends me: these brands, Hermes, Gucci, maybe even LV, they didn't just accidentally end up using Chinese labor. This wasn't a whoops, we didn't know situation number. They knew, they always knew. They paid for audits, they signed off on production deals, they were in the room approving these relationships from day one. And guess what? Those audits they brag about, they're fake. Not even allegedly. Multiple exposes over the years have proven this. Brands announce a factory inspection is happening, the facility scrubs everything down, rotates, and clean workers hides the subcontractors, and voila, everything looks above board. Auditors check a few boxes, get a coffee, and call it a day. But you and I both know it's performative, it's all smoke and mirrors. These brands didn't want the truth, they wanted plausible deniability. So when the SHD hit the fan, they could throw their hands up and claim, "We had no idea, please." They constructed the system to be deniable, and what do when someone spills the truth? Sue them, intimidate them, bury them in legal fees. That's what Hermes did, that's what every megacorporation does when they're scared, because at the end of the day, they're not auditing factories, they're auditing exposure. So when Gucci scrambles to cut ties and Louis Vuitton starts sweating, just remember the only reason this is coming out now is because people on the internet did the job. Luxury brands were too comfortable to do, and now the mask is slipping fast. Now, let's get into the part nobody saw coming, the twist that flipped the Hermes scandal from embarrassing to personal, because this isn't just about logos and leather, this is about bloodline revenge. Jane Birkin, sure that Birkin was the face of the most desired bag in history, but it's her daughter Lou Duan who might be the one who took Hermes down. Allegedly, Lou found out about Hermes outsourcing to Chinese factories the hard way. Rumor has it she stumbled across a supplier invoice, or worse, a factory tag that listed the same plant used by Walmart and other discount retailers. One label, two realities. And that was the final straw. Think about that for a second. Your mother's legacy, the thing that made your family name iconic, is being built on the same assembly line as mass-market luggage. That's not just humiliating, that's infuriating. Lou reportedly confronted Hermes and demanded a full shutdown of any Chinese operations. And when they refused, she exposed it. This wasn't a concerned citizen whistleblower. This was personal. This was generational rage. This was someone who felt betrayed by a brand her own family helped build. And that's why it hits so hard, because when the daughter of Jane Birkin says your company is a fraud, that's not just shade, that's lethal. And honestly, if Lou really is behind this expose, she might have done more for luxury fashion reform than any watchdog group ever has. Let's get uncomfortable for a second. What if the luxury industry wasn't caught faking it? What if it was always fake? Think about it. The entire foundation of the luxury market is founded on perception, exclusivity, craftsmanship, heritage. But what if those words were never anything more than branding buzzwords? What if all of it, every ad campaign, every Instagram post, every candlelit studio tour, was just a narrative carefully engineered to justify a price tag? Because here's the brutal truth: if the stitching is the same, if the materials are the same, and if the only difference is a brand name being slapped on in Italy, is it still luxury? Or is it just a scam in a silk box? For years we've laughed at people buying knockoffs on Canal Street, but maybe they weren't the suckers. Maybe we were. Maybe the real scam was happening inside the boutiques, where you pay $30,000 for a bag made in the same factory as a $300 dupe. And that's why this hurts, because deep down a lot of us wanted to believe the dream that luxury meant something, that there was value in the story. But if that story turns out to be fiction, then what we've really been buying is status cosplay, and maybe we've all been played. So here's where we're at. Hermes is allegedly facing bankruptcy. Gucci allegedly shut down every Chinese factory they were tied to. Louis Vuitton is suspiciously quiet. Jane Birkin's daughter lit the match. And now the whole luxury house of cards is shaking. If these brands lied about where your bag came from, what else did they lie about? Craftsmanship, pricing, ethics? I think we've been sold fantasy at full price, and a return policy doesn't exist.